You're listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11, Monday through Friday. I promise you, I am not going to talk about heart health every single day just because I had a heart attack a couple of 3 weeks ago. But it does change the way you think about things. It shouldn't, because you should be thinking about the health of your heart all the time because it's kind of the most important organ, you know, in a lot of ways. But there's a wake-up call that you get when you have that moment where even though I had a minor heart attack, you have that moment where you wonder for a second, is this it? And it changes the way you look at things. And I hope in my case it changes in a good way. Today, Dr. Madasser Ahmed is joining us. He's Chief of Cardiology at Northeast Georgia Health System. And you're here with me in the studio. Welcome.
Good morning, Martha. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your background first, because you're new to Gainesville, but you're not new to heart health.
That's right. Thank you. I'm fortunate to be here. I've been here in Gainesville now about 4 or 5 months. Basically, came on for this opportunity. Really excited about the position, excited about the community and our health system. Came here from Minnesota. I was chief of cardiology for a health system up in the Twin Cities for a number of years. And really came to Minnesota for cardiology training. I was at the University of Minnesota for cardiology training. Before that, I was in Cleveland for internal medicine training. And so really been in the Midwest for about 25 years or so. Excited about the change in weather, excited to be here. To say the community has been extremely welcoming. I really appreciated getting to meet everybody, and excited about becoming part of this family and this community.
So, gosh, it may be more than 10 years or so, but we made a huge expansion when we started the Ronnie Green Clinic. That happened. And then we have come so far in Northeast Georgia Health System as far as our heart care over the last 25 years. But it seems like that we're doing even more now. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, I had a little incident almost 3 weeks ago, and I had to come in through the emergency room. I had amazing staff there waiting for me. I mean, there was great coordination between the ambulance and the ER, and that brand new ER just opened up a few months ago. Everybody was there, was ready. I was up in the stabilized into the cath lab and onto that kind of medium cardiac floor, which is not ICU necessarily, but a little bit step down from that. Probably within 2 hours. I mean, it was very fast, and I was able to get the care that I needed very quickly. That's exciting, isn't it, for the people here in Gainesville, that we've got this ability, and not just Gainesville, but an entire region.
Absolutely. So firstly, I'm sorry that you had that event. Sorry that you had to experience that. But glad that everything came together the way it should. And that is really our norm, where it shouldn't matter who you are or who you know. Everybody in the community, everybody in the area, we feel should have access to world-class heart care. You shouldn't have to, live in Atlanta or next to the Mayo Clinic or next to the Cleveland Clinic. That's what we take pride in, is we can provide
Emory.
that we provide the exact same quality of care and provide it efficiently, provide it quickly, with a lot of warmth and caring. So you know that we're here for you. We know that you want to get back to your family, to your loved ones. So we get you in, get you treated, and then make sure you're doing well enough to get home quickly.
Well, and that is one thing that I noticed actually about the care, having had to use. I've lost my mother-in-law and brother-in-law in the last 2 years, and they were both at Northeast Georgia Health System, and my father-in-law is elderly, so I'm in and out of the emergency room, from time to time. I jokingly say I've used about every department at Northeast Georgia Health System for me or a family member over the last 2 years, and have had pretty good experience. But what I've noticed is the communication is so much better. I had people along the way, telling me, okay, Ms. Zoller, Martha, whatever, depending on how well they knew me, here's what we expect next. Here's how much time you might have to wait for it. And there wasn't much waiting time because of the situation I was in. But then even for my stay, after everything was stabilized, there was really a lot of communication. And I think that's really positive.
I'm glad you had that experience. We like to think of you and your families as partners with us in the care. We know that there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of unknown when you come in. We know we're really, really good at providing the medical care, doing the procedures. But as you unfortunately experienced, there's a lot more to it than the actual procedure. It's everything that's around it, making sure someone's there, making you feel that you're going to be fine, letting your family know that everything is actually going to be just okay. And so that's what we really try to bring along with the state-of-the-art, top-quality care.
So the only problem I had, it was funny because they didn't want me watching the news, because I'm a news person, and they didn't want me watching the news because they didn't want me to get excited, or anything like that. You're not in charge of the television, but that television system is a challenge. Let me just tell you, it is probably the most difficult part of the stay because it doesn't make any sense. But I was able to get to the Hallmark Channel, which was very calming, and that's what I did. I just kind of had it on in the background all the time because I was sleeping all the time, quite frankly. For the 2 days that I was there, I was supposed to be sleeping, and it was amazing to me that it was 2 days. I mean, I was home in 2 days. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I had things I had to do after that, but I was home in 2 days. And that's a real positive thing, too, keeping those stays short.
It really is. I think there's no reason to have somebody in the hospital if they don't need to. I know we're really good, but you'd rather be at home eating home-cooked food, being with your family. And that's what we really try and do. There's a lot of things that we can do now in terms of heart procedures, stents, pacemakers, even some surgeries where we can get you home the same day. You come in the morning, you have the procedure that you need, and you're back home by that evening. The next morning, you're going for a regular walk with family. You had a minor heart attack, so I think in your case, we wanted to be a little extra careful, observe you for a little bit longer, make sure everything was okay. But that's where we're headed is a lot of this can be done in the same day.
Yeah, so it was crazy because the episode that got me in there was stabilized, and I had a heart cath. Everything was clear. It was good. It was what they think is Takotsubo syndrome, which is basically a spasm of the heart. I had a little episode around 5:30 after I was already in the room, and they were able to come in and deal with that right away. Mm-hmm. They described it kind of like the first one was like the earthquake, and then I had these couple of other small ones that were more like aftershocks, Sure. And then when I got home, that morning I got home, I had a little episode where I had to take nitroglycerin for the first time. I mean, they'd given it to me in the hospital, but it wasn't something I had done myself. And said, you're always wondering, is this the time? Should I be doing this? Is it the right thing to do? But I think what's also interesting about this is that I think a lot of people, when you're 40, you should start getting mammogram. When you're 50 or sometimes 40, depending on your family history, you should get a colonoscopy. What are the guidelines around heart health? Are there those kinds of guidelines, those kind of trigger points where you need to start looking at things a little differently?
There absolutely are, and it's never too early to start. So when it comes to heart disease, especially risk of heart attacks, strokes, all of those are in the same bucket, and they're really related to your underlying risk factors. The predominant ones are having high blood pressure, having high cholesterol, being overweight, having diabetes, smoking. So those are the things that we try and get ahead of as early as we can. So we recommend, even in your late teens, early 20s, going in, seeing your primary care doctor on a regular basis, making sure your blood pressure, cholesterol under good control. If a lot of those things are managed effectively and managed early, your risk of developing heart disease can really be minimized and made extremely low. Having said that, if you have a family history, if despite those measures you start to notice symptoms, our recommendation is not to ignore anything. So the classic thing of having crushing chest pain, while that's often talked about, I would advise really having sort of a broad spectrum of suspicion. So even if you get short of breath, for example, our general guideline is if there's things that you could do before that now you have a hard time doing, climbing a flight of stairs or 2 flights of stairs. If you could do that a few months ago, and you'd be fine, but now you notice yourself having to stop halfway, you get short-winded. Going for a walk, a brisk walk makes you short-winded. You start to notice a little tightness in your chest. All those things would be warning signs, and we'd recommend coming in, getting yourself checked, maybe getting a stress test if needed. Those would be the recommendations.
And, obviously you started out in internal medicine and came into this, and that's where a lot of these fields go. But you should that be in your quiver of primary care doctors is having a regular cardiologist to see? Or should that only be if you're having some of these kind of symptoms?
Sure. Fortunately, the vast majority of people out there will not have heart disease, which is a really good thing. So for most people, there isn't really a need to be plugged in with a regular cardiologist. If there are strong risk factors, a strong family history, we're proud to have a really good prevention clinic where we can see people, like the name suggests, to prevent heart disease, and are happy to see really anybody. But if you don't have a strong family history, if all your risk factors are under great control, you're active, you have no symptoms, then seeing your primary care physician, your internal medicine doctor, family doctor would be just fine. Having said that, if there's ever any concern, that's why we have a setup like the prevention clinic. There's all sorts of new risk factors that are coming up. Lipoprotein little a, for example, is one that has been talked about more and more now. It's completely different from the usual LDL, HDL cholesterol, increases your risk factors. We have clinical trials that we can put you in to control that better because there's no good drugs right now that can control that. So it really is, I think, having a good conversation with your primary care physician. And if there are ever any concerns, you can give us a call. We're always available to get you in and address it directly.
And that's a good point. And one of the things that I think the biggest lie ever told, and we in the media are somewhat a part of this, is that if you don't have insurance, you can't go to the doctor. And I believe there's a lot of people out there, and I know what a great community we have here, is that I think that I know my husband, we never turned somebody away because they didn't have insurance, especially if they needed to be seen. We would come up with a payment plan. We would come up with whatever happened. And I know there are lots of resources, not only in the community, but at the medical center where, I call it the medical center, sorry, I'm an old school, but they're there where there are opportunities that you shouldn't sit at home with symptoms because you don't have health insurance, because there's a way to do that. I just, that's one of those things that I try to get out there all the time. Don't think because you don't have insurance that if you're having issues, you can't go to the doctor.
I'm really glad you're bringing that up, Martha. That's absolutely true. And it's especially true if you're talking about prevention, because preventive care does not cost very much, with or without insurance. And so if you get in early, if you're on a blood pressure pill, those cost pennies. A lot of those are generic. If you have to, unfortunately, end up in the hospital, need procedures, then that can be expensive without insurance. But that's where we're proud at NGHS and NGHI to say we provide a lot of care for people that don't have the means, and we work it out.
That's North Georgia Health Institute, NGHI, or Heart Institute,
so
correct?
Georgia Heart Institute,
yes.
And Northeast Georgia Health System.
Yes, I want to be sure we get the letters in there and people know what they are. But you should come if you need it, or call anyway and find out what's available.
We'll figure out a way to help you.
We're here talking to Dr. Madasser Ahmed, who is the Chief of Cardiology. Did I get that right? You're Chief of Cardiology?
That's right, yes.
That's right, Chief of Cardiology at NGHS. Of course, we've talked about the risk factors. Obviously, you guys know I talk to you about everything. I've had this big weight journey in the last 5 years. I had a pneumonic effusion at the height of COVID because I was trying to treat myself. That seems like a problem with me. I'm working on that. At the end of that, my sweet husband said, your weight hasn't caused this, but it'll make it harder for you to recover. And I came out of that being pre-diabetic. I did not become diabetic, but since then, I've lost 82 pounds. I've kept it off. My blood pressure was great. I was on no medications. Now I'm on a few, but that's okay. But I really feel firmly that had I gone on the path that I was on, I would have had this episode sooner, or it would have been worse of an impact for me because I would have been diabetic. And I don't want to be diabetic. I think we don't we downplay how bad diabetes is. You know, that, because everybody knows in the South, everybody's got a relative that's got diabetes, okay? And you think that that's fine. But diabetes, not smoking, being able to keep your weight under control, staying active. I hate to sweat, okay? You're never going to see me in a gym sweating, okay? I just don't. I don't like to mess my makeup up. I've always been like that. But what I've done in the last 5 years, and since I've been released now to do a little bit more now, is I find ways to walk. You know, like if I'm going to go see somebody across the square, I don't drive my car, I walk there. I park in the back of the parking lot. I find ways to get movement into my day so that I'm moving. And then I put a rowing machine. I'm not allowed to use it yet, but I put a rowing machine in my office about 5 years ago at home. And so I might just do 10 minutes 3 times a day on the rowing machine, but I get it in.
That's amazing, Martha. I have to congratulate you, because that's the exact attitude that we need to not just cure but also prevent heart disease. And like you said, it doesn't actually take a lot. It's not complicated. Walking, that's actually the number one thing that I recommend, because it's easy to do. You can get in 20, 30 minutes essentially every day. And even if you don't have time, what you talked about are exactly the things we say. You go to the grocery store, instead of fighting for that spot next to the door, park across the lot. You'll get in quicker, and then you'll walk in. You won't break a sweat, but you'll get some benefit from that. You do that a couple of times a day. If you have a flight of stairs to go up, if it's one flight up, take the stairs instead of the elevator. All those little things add up and make a profound difference over the years. Yeah,
it's funny because we have an older house, and so our master bedroom is upstairs, and everybody we know is like adjusting their house so that they can all be on one level and all that stuff. And I told my husband, no, we've got 2 bedrooms on the main level, and if someday we get to the point we can't climb those stairs, you know what I mean, we'll go into one of those bedrooms. But I said, as long as we can climb those stairs to the bedroom, we're going to do it, because I think every time you climb a stair, every time you do that. But I will tell you now, looking back on it, I did notice some shortness of breath going upstairs the few weeks leading up to this event that I had. But I was sick at the time, and so, I was explaining it away. I think that we do that too, don't we? Because we don't want to think we're having a heart attack. We want to think that, it's just nothing.
You're right. It's
and most of the time it is nothing.
Many times it is nothing, but you don't want to take that chance, right? It's a lot. We're all busy. That's one thing. So you assume it's going to go away. You don't want to take the time to, block half a morning or half an afternoon to go, see the doctor. You assume it's not going to be me. This sort of stuff happens to others. It's not going to happen to me. But like you unfortunately saw, it can happen to any of us. And I'm really glad you got in when you did. And I think the recommendation again would be, if you start to notice any of those symptoms, any of that early shortness of breath, any early warning signs, don't sit on them. Go see your doctor right away.
Putting the talk in news talk. It's the Martha Zoller Show on AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN.
We're here with Rick Jackson now, and we're so happy to have him here with us in the studio. Welcome, Rick.
Thank you, Martha. I'm so glad to see you're up and around and doing well.
Thank you. And we've been friends a long time. I think you called me when I was running for Congress, and I came down and had lunch with you. And since then, we've been good friends and helped each other with a lot of different projects. So I appreciate you being here.
I'm glad to be here, and thank you for all the things you've done to help on foster care over the years.
Thank you. Now, your story, now everybody knows that you came from very difficult beginnings. And what I like to say about you is you broke the cycle. Your family could have been just as broken as the family you came from, but you broke the cycle. So tell us a little bit about that. And then I'm going to ask you about this best-kept secret in the political world, earthquake, that you have caused in the last few weeks. But tell us about you first.
Well, first of all, it was very difficult, as you can appreciate. I didn't have a father, and my mother was an alcoholic. I went to 8 different elementary schools and 5 different high schools. But most of the time in elementary school, I grew up in a place called Techwood Homes. And it was very difficult because I was by myself a lot. Somehow or another, I still went to school and did okay there. But But you feel, as a child, you feel completely out of control, obviously. And so it got to a point where I actually ran away to what is called DFACS, and ran away to go to foster home because I couldn't handle it anymore. I just didn't want to be around my mother, her alcoholism, and the abuse, as well as all the stepfathers that I had that were coming in and out and so forth like that. So it was a very chaotic thing. The good news is I went to church by myself a lot, and that's where I got a lot of refuge out of that. And any rate, I was able to, and I think it's because of God's help getting through the cycle. What I didn't do is I didn't buy into the narrative that I hear today. That when you're poor like that, rich people are evil. You'll never make it. Everything's stacked against you, and so forth like that. And I just think that's what I'm hearing today is just demeaning. My sense is, and what I tell kids, is that they are somebody. They can make it if they will take ownership in their own life and don't rely on everybody else except friends that will help you. Then you can get out of the cycle. And that's the basis of the foster kids that we help over the last 20 years, as well as the Fostering Success Bill that you helped us with as well, to help these kids aging out so they can break the cycle and have a better future. And it's that I know I've never been called a billionaire before this happened. Okay, I think my wife was surprised when she heard that. But my point is that. But when you grow up and you see the struggles of people, you never forget that. You never forget broken homes, people not eating, some of those things. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Don't be sorry. Look.
But my point is that it's those people. While I'm doing this, I don't have to do it. I don't need power or prestige. I'm doing it because what I have found is that these people are forgotten and they don't have a voice in legislation because they don't have money, and so that's what I want to do.
So a few weeks ago, you shocked everybody. It was the best kept secret in politics. Nobody, you definitely know how to lock down a secret. Let me tell you, I'm telling you that. And then you came in and. And as you know, I have been supporting Chris Carr, and we didn't know about it. We didn't hear about it. And it turned this entire race upside down. And if you do not acknowledge that, you are not living in the real world. I don't mean you, but I'm talking about the people out there, the consulting class, the people who think they know everything, the political class. This entry of you into this race has turned this entire race upside down.
Well, this is actually very symbolic to the way I work. I don't talk. I do. I don't tell people what I'm going to do. I just do it. And that's the problem with a lot of politicians, is they make statements and don't make a difference. And so from my standpoint, it kind of came fast. It was a last-minute decision. But I think it was important that we keep it to ourselves until we're ready to go, and therefore that's what we're doing. And we're playing catch-up right now because we're building our campaign team, and I'm trying to stretch a year of campaigning in the next 60 or 70 days. But I have been very, very pleased with the response to the message, and to me, it's been I've never felt the presence of God more than I have in the last 3 weeks. It's been amazing. It really has, and it makes me even more motivated that I'm doing what I need to do.
So, what in the short time that you've been campaigning, as you have been talking to people, what are you seeing? One, as the most important issues to people, but two, are they different than what you thought they would be?
Well, yes and no. first of all, I think people are hurting from a affordability standpoint. I mean, one of the things that I saw what Trump was doing is in the last year, it just showed me what a business person outsider could do to actually help the working people of Georgians. And so obviously taxes are a big deal. The property taxes was a surprise to me. I got to tell you, I did not know how bad it was. I can't tell you how many elderly people that are telling me they're going to have to sell their house because of their property tax. They bought their home 25 years ago. Now they can't even afford their property taxes to keep their house, which is absolutely ridiculous. So, and then, people are concerned about law and order and deporting criminal illegals. And so I'm hearing a lot of that. Now, went down to Perry last week, and I admitted to them that in Georgia, down at Techwood Homes, we didn't grow a lot of tomatoes and corn and so forth, and I need to understand the agriculture. And I've heard a lot about the things and the struggles that they're having, for sure. But what I really think is that people want somebody that's real, that's not going to give them a political answer, and that actually cares about them. And so they won't find a better friend from that standpoint than I am, and a better advocate. So that's been pleasantly surprised, and I'm just really pleased with the response of people to the message.
So the attacks have come quickly, right? You got called a billionaire, which I don't know. I'm kind of like you. I've always wanted to, I always looked at people that were successful and thought, what can I learn from them? Not that they were my enemies. But there is this ad out there saying that, yeah, you came late to the Trump thing. Yes, you gave him money, but it wasn't until last year, and that you supported all these other Republicans. But what do you say to that? The people that are criticizing you on that?
Well, look, like J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, I didn't support Trump early on in the years, but there's nobody that supports him more than now. I mean, look, let me give you some examples. So we bought in 2021. We bought the last remaining antibiotic plant in the United States because I found out that there was the only one left, and we were so reliant on China, and I just felt like I had to do it. It was a dumb business decision. I knew it when it happened, but at any rate, so we changed the name of it to U.S. Antibiotics. Under Biden's administration, that took 7 months to approve our logo that was exactly on the same side, part of the bottle as it was before, but took 7 months. Now, roll forward, last September, the Trump administration really is trying to streamline the FDA. I know there's a lot of concern about that, but this is the biggest deal that nobody's talking about, the FDA. So in September, they had this accelerated program to speed up approval of drugs and so forth. So we had a drug called amoxicillin XRs for kids. It's extended release, so that you don't have to take as many doses and so forth like that, especially with children or upset stomach. Anyway, hasn't been manufactured or sold since 2008. We applied for a fast track in September. They said, okay, you apply in October. We applied in October. They approved it in 60 days. That's like light speed. Now, that was a business solution. I go to meet some people in the White House and tell them about, we sell amoxicillin for 7 cents a dose. You know what you pay for it? You pay $1. There's 4 different elements in between, people in the middle between us manufacturing. I could ship it to you for 14 cents, make more money, and save you a lot of money, by the way.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, and then they said, well, did you know about Trump RX? And I go, no. And they said, well, we'll announce it next week. The whole purpose, that was a business solution. They saw a problem, eliminate the people in the middle, and so forth. And so when I saw that and all of the just many things that you look at it like a business person does. What's the problem? What's the solution? And then you follow up and make it accountable. So it's totally different than what I see in politics today.
So one question, this came in from our friend Greg Bluestein. He says there's currently a bill House Bill 1362 that's sponsored by Jason Ridley that is going to say that you cannot hold public office if you transact business with the state, and everybody agrees that this has been geared towards you. Any thoughts about that? Do you know about that?
I just laughed at it. It's just so petty, and it's just part of using the system to, for your own sake and so forth. But this is just an example of how you make a point but don't make a difference. That bill's not going to go anywhere. I just ignored it. Because, to be honest, I think half of the people at the Capitol would have to quit working if that was the case. So a lot of people do with the government. But the point is that I just I think it's a waste of time to do those kind of things. And that's the kind of things I want to get rid of. When I talk about politicians talk versus, there are so many bills, and I want to be careful about mentioning the specific ones, but there's so many bills that everybody applauds. They have a press conference and all that. Then you look at it a year later, it did zero. Nothing happened. There's no accountability. So when I created Fostering Success, the goal was not to get a tax credit. The goal wasn't to help, to try to help kids. The goal was to actually get it to work. And so that's why I formed a nonprofit to make sure. Today, the kids that age out, we started 2 years ago. We saw our first young lady living in a car at Georgia Tech in August of 23. We rolled forward. Today, there's 500 kids that we provide a life coach and financial support so they can go to school to break the cycle, exactly what you're talking about. It's working. A business, when I want to come up with solutions for the state of Georgia, it is not to, for instance, I'm not running to be governor. I'm running to be a good governor, and there is a huge difference between those two things. It's not the title. It's to be a good governor and actually make things work for people.
We're here with Rick Jackson. You can text us at 770-535-2911. Scott from Gainesville said, I was undecided until I saw you on TV. I watched your commercial and listened to your message, and when you said, I got this, I believed you. I want a sign for my yard. So on the technology side or on the retail side, how do people get the information about you and a sign for their yard if they want to?
Just go to rickjackson.com and somebody will be glad to assist you, and thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm glad I came to your show. I got a sign out of it.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Now, you wanted me to ask you again about your wealth because you said you've never been called a billionaire. So you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, in 2008, I made several decisions about that. Number one, it's not my money. It's God's money. I'm a steward. In 2008, I also decided that I drew the finish line and that everything above what I made in 2008 would all go away. And we made that. So would be given away.
Yes.
It is being given away. And to be honest, God's blessed me so much, I'm behind a little bit in getting that done. But this is actually part of that I want to use God's money in a way that can have return on kingdom impact and impact for all people to help. And so that's the way I see that. I've never been called a billionaire before. I'm embarrassed by it. And I just, because it's not my money. So, but I do have a responsibility to use it in a wise way. And that's what I pray for every night is that, for wisdom on how to give it away.
So we got a question from Jeannie about your stance on expanding gambling in Georgia.
I will tell you that we're already gambling and so forth. And I don't know. I will tell you, I am not familiar with all of the bills that may be coming forward and so forth like that. I'll study it more. I do. I have a general thing that's probably not great for a politician, but my personal beliefs. I don't want to individually say that my personal belief I'm going as a religion that I'm going to force it on somebody. So I tend to like to have people make those kind of decisions from that standpoint. But I understand the concerns of people about expanding gambling and so forth and what you kind of have. So that's one I'm going to have to pray about more, because I'm not exactly sure right now how I would feel about expanding anything in gambling.
Okay, so one of the biggest unintended consequences from the Reagan era was the block grants related to mental health and the kind of destruction of the big mental health hospitals over that time period, the last 50 years. And right now, I talk to a lot of families that have no options for these children that have mental health problems, and sometimes they're adults. And we are trying to do a lot of work in Georgia related to mental health, but I can tell you these families are saying they're not seeing it on the ability of where to go. Have you heard that, and do you have any thoughts on that?
I haven't heard it, but I understand mental health is one of the biggest problems that we don't talk about, period. And, for instance, I didn't know that 1/3 of our farmers have considered committing suicide. I found that out like a week or two ago, which is a mental health problem. We have mental health issues with our law enforcement people. Our foster kids can't have access to mental health. A lot of our kids have. So this is the biggest part of health care that we're missing. And I have a lot of solutions for that. One of them is that we have, our company has the largest telepsychiatry business in the world. Okay, we help hospitals. When somebody comes, they have to have a psychiatric evaluation to be admitted. So we do that remotely. I think we need to set up a complete telehealth mental health system, especially for our kids. We're going to do it for foster care if I'm governor, I can guarantee you. But also, and I want to show, for instance, the farmers they could put together a good mental health just for farmers. The people that are struggling. It's very difficult. There's 6 generations of farming, and they're worried about losing their farm and what they're doing and so forth. So a lot of people have a lot of mental health issues. I just think that the reimbursement is not accurate from the feds in order to solve the problem. Personally, I think if we solved more mental health issues, you'd have less other illnesses. So I actually think it's a good return on investment to spend money to do that. And I have a solution for a lot of health care that we don't have time to discuss today. But I think mental health is a big deal. We need to address it.
And again, if people want to help you, how can they do it?
Go to rickjackson.com.
To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.